Hi, teachers. This is Tracy Barnett, and I'm going to go through a quick overview of ORIGO and the different things it can offer. Real quick, this is your homepage for Stepping Stones. I'm going to go into first grade and kind of show you the things that are offered in all first through fifth grade. First, you have a table of contents. Each grade level has a table of contents. If you're looking for a certain lesson to kind of go with one of your standards that are you're teaching to help support, here you can find all the lesson titles and activities that you can find to match that standard. For example, you might be looking for a grouping, working with groups of 10. You might be teaching a standard that has to do with that. You would do lesson 3.6. That's the table of contents. Now, I'm going to go into the modules now because the modules actually have a lot of great things to offer. I know we usually go to the modules, like I'm in first grade, module 2, and we usually just go straight to lessons, but these other tabs have things to offer. For example, mathematics has a bunch of different options and things to offer. You have a focus tab, which is kind of a background. You have the learning target tab, which tells you the learning targets for each lesson in the module. You have the process standards that talks about the process standards that are in each lesson in the module. And I really like this one, English Language Learners tab, which is I'm going to go to right now. It shows you the ELPs that are in each lesson and where they are within the lesson. For example, C3E right here, that ELP is in step 3 with this activity. And so it kind of helps you as you make your language objectives for your lesson plans. You can use this to help you kind of guide you on what you can do to make sure you're teaching that language objective. As we go through here, it has language development, which kind of shows you the vocabulary that you need to be kind of focusing on. And then it has a newsletter part, and the newsletter I don't necessarily would send out because we're not following ORIGO as it's written, the newsletter, but you can get things for it if you're having to put out a parent letter or something for your parents. You can use some of the verbiage from here because if you're doing some of these lessons, it has a good explanation in how to explain that. And it's in English and Spanish. And then you have the research into practice, which is just the research that what ORIGO uses as their backbone. Going back to the module tab, you also have resource overview. That's just an overview of all the things that you're going to need, the manipulatives, everything you're going to need to complete the module. Of course, you have the lessons, which I think everyone's familiar with. I'm going to go kind of detail into that. But I also want you all to bring your attention to this More Math tab. In the More Math tab, you can get center ideas. You can get, there's extra worksheets if you need to kind of enrich your kids or have them or test them or see what they know. Investigations or little activities. I find these really helpful for coming up with center ideas for things, or maybe a starting idea to get the kids motivated and engaged. You can kind of do these activities, and there's several of them in this. There's 3 in this module. Problem solving activities. If you click on these, it usually has the activities, explains what the activity is, and they usually come with some kind of page for your kids to use. For example, this is the page they used to use. And you can use these in different ways. You can use this as an exit ticket at a center, however you want. All these things are in there. Another one in More Math is the cross-curricular links, and it usually has links to things that are cross-curricular within this module that you can use as activities to help you kind of bridge some links on maybe the ELA, what you can do with ELA with this. You're always told about how to bring reading into math. Well, here's an idea for this one. How big is a foot? You can read this book and talk about it and use the vocabulary from it. And so it kind of gives you ideas that you can use. Now we go back to the module tab and you can go under assessment. Assessment offers some things. It has an overview of the assessment. It has some formative assessments. Like if you click on formative assessments, there's always a pre-test where it's just some pages that you can give your kids beforehand to see what they already know. Or you can use these as little activities that maybe you put 2 of these as an exit ticket in a center just to see if they know if you're doing some review. You can do these. I love that you can run across and see what standard it supports. And then down here, there's 2 sets. There's also the observation one where you can actually interview your kids and how they answer, and based on that you can kind of get data. I don't know that I would do this with every kid, but maybe you have some kids that you're trying to figure out what their gap is. You can use some of this to help you figure that out. Summative assessments have checkups, which is also some more stuff that you can pull to kind of see where kids are. Under here, there's performance task, which is usually a little performance task that kids can do. And you can do this at your small groups center. You can do this as a group activity, however you want to kind of see how they're doing with their performance and see if they can do what you ask them to do. We're going back to the module. Of course, we're going into the lesson now. So I'm going to go to lesson. I'm going to go to lesson 3 just for fun. And I'm going to go through the steps. The steps are actually the steps to your lesson. This is your TE. And your steps start here at step 1, where it's preparing the lesson. Then you're going to start the lesson. And usually right here, it's a little activity to kind of start the lesson to engage the kids. Right here is your teach piece. And I know that some teachers start with the work student journal, but that's not where you're supposed to start. You're supposed to start here. And there's usually an activity that you do before you pull out that student journal. So you would do this little activity here. Kind of do a teach piece, and you can get ideas. And I know we're doing virtual now, so you might have to make kind of change it up a little bit to fit the virtual, but this you can get ideas from here. And then actually the last bullet in here is where you actually pull out the student journal and start working with your kids. And then I love that step 4 that a lot of teachers misses the discussion of how they answered, and it gives you questions that you can ask. You can ask that at the small group table, but you want the kids to reflect on the work they did to make it important for them to do it. And then under steps, you have the differentiation piece. Under the differentiation piece, it has activities. If kids need extra help, here's an activity that they can do. If kids need an extra challenge, here's an activity. This is to provide differentiation in your classroom. And then you have your ongoing piece. And your ongoing work piece is usually from the practice book, but it has the page that kind of corresponds that will support this, so you don't have to go looking for it. And that's under the lessons. Now, also in ORIGO, we have the channels. Under the channels, we have the honeypot. The honeypot, if you go over to start and you hit titles, you have a lot of black line masters in here, and there's a ton of different things. And you can, like, it has a number line from 0 to 120 for first grade. You can have them print these out and use these in your classrooms at centers. They can glue it in their journal, however you want, but that's in here for you all to use. Also under channels, you have the 1-minute videos. These are little 1-minute videos that you can support you. You can show them to your kids, or you can show them to yourself to get an idea of how you might engage your class. You have your flare. Under your flare, you go here, you can go to titles, and it pulls up different things. Like if you wanted to pull up a number board, you could pull up a number board, the hundreds chart right here, and you can do things with it within the flare, like highlight, maybe talk about even odd numbers, whatever it is that you are teaching. And I really encourage you to explore these different channels over here. Those are just some channels I wanted to hit real quick. Also, this math ed, some of the, if you've gone to some of the trainings, you might have seen some of these videos. They actually have titles here, and you can pull up a concept, any concept like using mental strategies to multiply. If I was more curious about that, I might hit that and watch that video. And it's usually 2 people talking about how to teach it and what kids understand about it. So these are all good things to go to. I encourage all of you to go through and check out all the channels, and then don't be afraid to click on a tab and figure out where it goes and what you can use. Thank you so much for joining me.